Welcome to IGO. That's In Good Order, episode 5. I'm Ben Braverman, senior consultant at SMS Financial Solutions, and now it's time to get in good order. Today's guest is Matt Halloran. Matt, did I get your last name correctly?
Yeah, that's good.
So Matt is a expert in terms of helping financial professionals rise above the noise and win with their ideal clients. He's a TED Talk speaker, recognized as one of the top 10 most influential people in financial services and a leading voice on influence and podcasting and multimedia marketing as co-founder of ProudMouth. Most advisors hate marketing, but they love serving clients. Matt has built his career showing financial professionals how to flip that script by marketing with clarity, consistency, and authenticity so that influence drives business growth. One of the goals of this podcast, Matt, for my listeners, is to get them outside of their comfort zone and marketing their businesses as entrepreneurs who happen to work in financial services and taking their business to the next level. I'm really excited to talk to you today. I gave you a somewhat decent introduction, but I'm sure you have a little bit more to share. Would you be so kind as to tell our listeners here on IGO about your background, where you came from, where you're at?
Yeah. So my partner and I both came from financial services. So Kirk Lowe is my business partner. He was a marketing and branding consultant, and I was a practice management consultant. And we had dinner at a conference in Arizona and really just hit it off. And that was in late 2016, 2017, we started ProudMouth. And so both of us have very large networks within financial services. And so our whole goal is to really help your advisors, your agents, your consultants stop being the best kept secret in their area, right? So many of you provide such an incredibly powerful and important service, but just not enough people know who you are. Asking for referrals alone is not a great way to grow a predictable business. And a lot of other things are really flipping expensive. So we decided to build our entire business off of our podcast, which we've successfully done. We've done over 10,000 episodes and over 150,000 social media posts in financial services. So your audience is who I work for every day, all day, brother. And I got a team of 26 behind us here at ProudMouth, and we're super excited to reach some new people.
Really appreciate it, Matt. Let's start with advisor marketing today. The go-to is seminar marketing, radio, buying leads, which can be incredibly inefficient from a cost perspective, depending on the quality of those leads. With that in mind, what's broken in the traditional advisor marketing playbook for RIAs, registered reps, and overall the financial services industry in general?
So what's broken is people think it's binary. People think it's on or it's off. It's and or. It's an or, right? And so I'll take all three of those very quickly. So we'll start with seminar marketing because it really is the most effective, proven way to bring in new business. Hands down, no questions asked. But I'm going to do some math for you real quick, okay? So you send out a mailer to 10,000 people, right? You get maybe 50 buying units who expressed interest, 30 show, and then maybe 3 to 5 set an appointment, you close some business, right? So those are the numbers that have been playing out over the last 20 years when it comes to seminar marketing. Now, some of you might be hitting higher numbers than that, and if you do, congratulations, but the math is still wildly important. So out of those 50 people who expressed interest, that means you have their contact information, right? So you know their mailing address, of course, probably their email, phone number, and all of that stuff, because you sent them more details on when the event was going to be. 5 of them bought for you. So that means 45 people liked something about you, but you have no follow-up with them at all, right? That's where content marketing and podcasting really does come in, because this is a companion to that. And a very, very quick story. We had an advisor in Wisconsin who did an estate planning workshop 5 years ago. And he brought on an estate planning attorney couple of years ago, and they were talking about wills and trusts and blah, 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 as you do. And this woman calls him up and said, "Hey, I went to one of your workshops 5 years ago. I just listened to your podcast. I've been listening to it consistently, since it came out. I'm ready to go. You said something in that podcast that was the trigger, what I needed to know, and I'm coming in. She signed it was $3 million, right? And so you look at that, so many people, and we get this feedback all the time, Ben, and it's very frustrating. I don't know if it's working, right? Because podcasting in most of the world of social media content creation and influence, it's all a rented audience. So unless you have a system to get them into your owned audience, their email address, their physical address, phone numbers, right? It's very difficult to quantify. So let's talk about, okay, so there's buying leads. So I'm just not a huge fan. I'm going to be honest with you, especially because, so Ben, you and I are financial advisors. I have a very specific niche or something I'm going over, geolocated, whatever. That lead gets released, right? You pick up the phone and I pick up the phone because that's what you all do. I know you do. And you start hammering these people with phone calls. And the problem is it's not really a buying signal. It is, I want to know more. And what you guys do is, oh, I got the fish on the hook. I'm going to go ahead and reel that puppy in. And the problem is maybe Ben's a better salesperson than I am, but he's a terrible financial advisor and he gets the business. That's really super frustrating, right? And radio absolutely a kabillion percent has its space. It really, really does. It's very, very expensive if you're in a good market. And you're really narrowing who you're working with. I mean, you're working with older boomers, right? Who probably already have an advisor. I'm not a huge fan.
So the seminar marketing in particular, it sounds like what you're saying is if seminar marketing is working for you, fantastic,
Mhm.
but you're missing out if you're not dovetailing that with multimedia content. And when I say multimedia content for purposes of this conversation, can we say that covers
Everything.
YouTube, podcasts, everything?
Yes.
That's
Social
that can
media,
be
blogs,
social
the whole
media,
nine yards,
blogs,
brother.
the whole
Yeah.
nine yards. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Because we work with a lot of offices, and I know they're probably listening to this podcast who are crushing it with seminars. But if we follow the 10-3-1
Okay.
idea
Yep.
that, you're going to book X amount of appointments, you're going to get 3 commitments, and one is actually going to be a close, there's leads or contacts that could be put into a lead nurturing campaign. And we also have offices doing email lead nurturing campaigns. But this is going to lead me into my next question, which is, does lead nurturing campaigns through systematic emails deliver a message of authenticity and reputation?
Well, it sure can.
Yeah.
But you better have a damn good writing team behind you, brother. Because, being able to gather your authentic voice is very difficult. In fact, that's a new product that we have here and a system that we have. It's called My Voice Print. And basically what it is it gets your voice so that when writing is completed, it actually sounds like you, right? And that's vitally, vitally. I have a team of professional writers who do our writing for us. But here's the other thing. Email is focused on one piece of media. Okay. So we know today that it is an and, not an or. So do you have to have great blogs and emails? Hell yeah, you do. Because there are people, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm one of them. Most people speak too slowly for me. Right. And so like I listen to my podcast on 1.5 times speed minimum.
Oh,
I
okay.
listen to books on tape 2 times speed, right? But because when I was in graduate school, you have to learn how to read quickly because I'd leave on a Friday because I was training to be a therapist, and you have to read these 3 books by Monday. So I had to learn how to read really, really fast. I love reading good blogs. I love them. But there are also times where I want to sit back and watch Ben on a video, right? So you have to hit all of these platforms. And the best part, and a lot of you are probably thinking, well, I don't have time for that. Well, that's why my entire organization exists, right? So ProudMouth exists because we've created a system to help with that. And that's not what I'm here to do, but it is absolutely 100 million % possible for you to have great email, but then also have your personality come through. Ben, I was watching your videos to prepare for the show because, I'm a student of this game. I know who Ben is. I know how you talk. I know your pace, your cadence, your volume, inflection. I know how you ask questions because I took the time to get to know you. And you weren't even around, bro. You were prepared. You were doing something else. That's the power of having a real strong, complete strategy is you can do something once and it does all of the work for you while you're doing other things.
So you covered one objection, which is time, which in the experiment that's been IGO, I've had the same realization. Initially, between processing and posting, it was 4 to 5 hours of
Oh,
sweat equity.
yeah.
Now it's down to less than two between recording, editing, and pushing it out to what I think is to the best of my ability and in a good way. But as I teased last week, at some point in this show, Matt might point where I'm making some errors. Advisor objections. Other than time, what are some of the common mindset traps that advisors are falling into?
It's the 10-3-1 rule that you had referred to previously, right? So this isn't, money in, money out sort of situation because the amount of benefit you get from a strong content marketing strategy, a lot of it is not quantifiable. In fact, Y Charts came out with a study. By the way, they'd be a great podcast guest. They're really
I'll make a
super cool
note.
over there. Uh, that said that basically, 75% of your clients are one bad piece of communication or one lack of communication piece away from leaving you. And I mean, they actually had it's statistically relevant and everything because so many of you are just using this canned crap. All right. So here's what ends up happening. Um, I have 18,000 followers on LinkedIn, worked really hard to build that network. Most of them are advisors. I don't even scroll through my feed anymore because it's all the same crap. You guys are sending out pre-approved stuff that has nothing to do with your personality. And in fact, a lot of that canned communication is damaging the relationships with your clients because they're not getting the Ben, right? It is so vitally important for you to get your personality out there into the marketplace at scale, having it be your voice. I just can't stress that enough. Um, so that's really the big objection is the idea that I can't quantify this spend, but if you track it correctly with getting greater share of wallet, which by the way is one of the biggest ways you can make money from your show, selling new products to existing clients, deepening relationships with centers of influence, and just retaining clients, those things are unfortunately somewhat unquantifiable.
One more time. One bad media piece. Could you repeat that quote one more
Yeah, so
time? That
70
was
yeah, so 75% of your clients are one bad piece or lack of communication piece away from leaving you. And
so
here's
if
the
you
other thing, Ben, which is really important. If you so many of your advisors right now are thinking social media is stupid, I hate it, I don't need to be there. Okay, fine, you're wrong. This isn't the 1900s anymore. You actually have to be on social, right? But here's the thing. If Ben's not there, his competitor is. And they're in your client's ear. I guarantee it. They're following Fisher Investments and they're following Dave Ramsey and they're following Susie Orman and they're following, at MSNBC and Fox Business and CNBC. They're following all of those things. They want the information, but here's the deal, brother. They want it from you and you're not giving it to them because you don't think you can or you don't see the value in it, which is really, really antiquated thinking.
from a practicality perspective, an advisor is doing, let's call it traditional or trad-fi marketing, traditional financial marketing, seminars, leads, referrals. They listen to this podcast today. They're either an existing producer I'm working with or maybe one that'll give me the opportunity in the future. They go, okay, I'm going to pull the trigger on social media. Some of these men and women, by their very definition, they're entrepreneurs, they're perfectionists. Okay, so I need my LinkedIn to be perfect. I need my Facebook to be perfect. I need my Twitter to be perfect. I need to have the best recording studio ready to go. I need to have all my videos ready to go. Can you tackle it in pieces from a practicality standpoint? Can you do it step by step? Can you start by maybe sharing something personal about yourself on a content calendar once a week to your clients? Can you start with individual video marketing messages? I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you need to do the entire thing at once, or kind of wade your way into it?
So there's two ways to answer that. I'm going to answer it my favorite way, and then I'll answer it in a different way. So what you're asking is, should I half-ass it or should I whole-ass it?
I
Right?
like
And I'm not a half-asser. I don't half-ass stuff. In fact, to a fault, I whole-ass things. So that's the big question. And the second issue that I'm going to take aggressively with you is, in content creation, there is no such thing as perfection. And if you go in thinking that it's going to be perfect, you're never going to start. So you're not a perfect human being. I'm sorry if that offends you all who are listening, but you're not, right? And so striving for greatness, striving for accuracy, striving for impact, I support all of those wholeheartedly. But if you are a perfectionist, I don't want you as a client. Because here's the deal. We have a team of professional writers, okay? And I actually have hired, my partner and I, Kirk and I, have hired unbelievably talented people. These are people with 10, 15, 20 years of digital marketing experience, strategy, I mean, everything. It's unbelievable. They're way smarter than I am. It's fantastic, okay? So they go ahead and they take your podcast, chop it up into a whole bunch of pieces, which is what we do: video, audio, YouTube, social media posts. And we write for a specific reason. And here's the reason: pleasing the algorithm. My job is not to please Ben. I don't care, to be brutally honest, Ben, not to be a dick. I don't, because you're not my target market. The advisor is not my target market. The target market is the advisor's clients. So we have to write in a very, very specific way so that you show up when people are searching for your stuff. When somebody's going to stop on Ben's profile because we write in a very specific way. You all need to just learn how to stay in your lane. Listen, I've worked with about 3,000 financial advisors in my career. I'm not a financial advisor. Ben, I'm not going to tell you how to drop tickets. I'm not going to tell you how to go ahead and write annuities. I'm not going to tell you how to manage assets. No. Have I studied all of that at great length? Do I know the good ones? I do. I'm not an expert. You outsource it to experts, right? That's the ultimate goal. And so, okay. So there was my rant. Thank you for letting me do that. Here's
It
what
was
you
a
all should do.
fantastic rant, by the way. I was a fan. I might say half-ass or whole-ass repeatedly, probably for the rest of the year. So
Good.
I'm going to liberate that comment from you, or liberate that.
Take it, brother. I think it's fantastic. Okay, so how do you wade yourself into it? So number one, you have to make sure that it's compliant. So that's one of the reasons why ProudMouth exists, is because we've done 10,000 episodes and 150,000 social media posts with zero compliance issues, right? So we know we have 5 areas of redundancy. We're very, very good at that. So please don't say, and here's another thing that I'm already hearing, well, compliance will let me do it. That's not true. Compliance will let you do it. You just have to ask them the magic question. If this is the only thing you glean from this podcast, this is worth it right here. Are you ready?
Ready.
What do I need to do to make this compliant? That is the question you're not asking your compliance department, because they come back and say no, and you're like, they're the business prevention department. No. Okay. Your response back is, what do I need to do to make this compliant? And they will tell you. But here's what you do. Ben, you get done with a client meeting. I'm talking to you, not your listeners. You get done with a kick-ass meeting that you just had, a strategy session with one of your top producers. You know that you just solved their problems and they're over the moon about what they're going to be able to do. This is what you're going to do. I just got off a meeting with a client. This is what we talked about today. Hey, if this is something that's valuable to you, please go ahead and give me a call. Bam. Doom, Bob's your uncle, post it. Right? Did I say anything about investments? Nope. Did I talk about product? Nope. Did I violate any compliance issues? Nope. Do I run it through compliance? Yep. But I get that out there. Do one of those a week. One. So we have something called the 4-to-1 rule. So for 4 pieces of professional content, you need to have 1 piece of personal content. Okay. And that's the personal content. It's the Ben. It's the Matt, right? It's the, I'm going to be my full Muppet, which is my goal in life, is to become a Muppet. I'm going to put that out there into the world. And look, some people love Matt's Muppety. Some people hate Matt's Muppety. That's fine. I know that when I'm allowing myself to unapologetically myself to be my own loud, I'm going to repel as many people as I attract. That's another thing advisors are afraid of because we're still in the whole idea, brother, of hey, if you can fog a mirror, you're a client. That's so old school thinking.
Work with the people that you want to work with. And I'm really fond also of the purple cow theory. It's a book I recently read about that type of differentiation. And you're going to attract the people you want to work with by fundamentally being yourself, which comes back to that authenticity, which we spoke to in 2 episodes ago relative to the emotional dynamic from Frank Maselli in seminars. Disarm in order to engage. And the only way you're going to do that is by being authentic. So what you're saying is bring that to social media and don't be afraid of compliance. So even registered reps, broker dealers, RIAs, they can play in this space.
1,000,000% they can.
Because I've seen I used to work for a Fortune 100 distribution company. They managed all of our social media. And when we all released the exact same whatever holiday statement simultaneously, and you're connected to those 35 people or 40 people or 50 people on LinkedIn, and you're all working with the same office, that is inauthentic. Is there such a thing as too personal? When we say personal, what are we trying to show about ourselves? What are we trying to communicate to our end user, to, in my case, advisors, in the advisor's case, their clients? One of the things that people used to joke about as I've been a wholesaler and marketer is it's Ben the annuity robot. He is the best performing robot I've seen around, which I know is because people think I can be a little dry. So in point of fact, I'm moderately dry. I'm really so maybe somewhere in between. So when you talk about authenticity, are we talking about sharing some of maybe our personal habits or hobbies? I live in Denver, Colorado. I'm an avid runner and outdoors person. Are we talking about our family life to an appropriate degree? Can we dial into that a little bit?
Sure. So my grandmother pulled me aside when I was a young kid and said, there are certain things that you shouldn't talk about in polite conversation: sex, politics, religion, and money. Okay. And so in polite conversation, you don't bring those 4 things up. Now we're violating the money thing pretty regularly, right? And that's just our world, and that's fine. And it seems to be much more okay. But I'm not talking about getting wildly personal. I'm talking about your essence, the benness. Dude, if somebody calls you the annuity robot, I would lean into that so damn hard. Of course, creatively, I'm thinking 20 different things that you could do that would be a whole bunch of fun to really lean into that, because that is Ben, right? I don't want Ben to be Matt. If you came on here and was like flailing your arms around and being really crazy and muppety, people are like, what the hell happened to Ben, right? I want the Benness, right? So you just gave a great example. I'll personalize this very quickly for me, and then I'll give a quick client example. So I'm a metal artist, right? So I take recycled car parts and junk and turn it into pieces of art. I learned how to do it about 5-6 years ago, and I just love to do it. So that is something that I will share personally, right? So am I giving you too much information? No. Am I, attacking your political or religious beliefs? No. Right. I'm just telling you something I like to do in my free time. You just talked about it. You're an avid outdoorsman and runner. Fantastic. How you do that at elevation is wildly impressive, by the way. So you as an advisor need to think about that. What is that? So one of my favorite stories is we've got a client. He's our longest term client. He's done over 200 episodes with us. And he used to call himself a recovering CPA. All right. And when he came on, when he first started, he was boring. Oh my God. It was like a 30-minute snooze fest. Great information, dude. Everything that you need to prepare for retirement. This guy was dialed in because he looked at it from financial planning and tax. It was just brilliant. Right. And then he brought on, he's a huge Yankees fan. He is crazy about the Yankees. Lives on Long Island, just absolutely huge fan. So he brought on the groundskeeper onto his podcast, and all they did was talk about the Yankees. That's all they did. By the way, first up, it's the most listened to episode he's ever had. And secondly, it allowed him to get out of his shell. And his clients come in and, they'll be Sox fans, or they'll, whatever, and they'll rib him, as you do with sports. But people now know him better because he gave that little brief glimpse into who he was as a human being. And when I first started in financial services in 2006, stoicism was ridiculous, right? I was wearing the most ridiculous suit I could afford. I had a watch that was way more expensive, the shoes, all of the stupid bravado crap that so many advisors have. Listen, especially Gen X, boomers, that was fine because that was a persona that you played. If you're trying to target the part of this huge great wealth transfer, by the way, which is hundreds of trillions of dollars, you can't be playing that same fiddle. Gen X does not care. I don't look, if you're showing up and you look like a schmuck, I'm out, right? If you pull up in a Maserati and I'm driving a Ford F-150, I don't want to work with you. I want to know who you are. And if that's part of your identity, and I'm speaking personally, millennials are a billion times worse, right? Millennials like, look, man, dude, so you're taking what I'm paying, you bought a watch with that? What are you, an idiot? See what I'm saying?
That
So,
makes a lot of sense.
this whole bravado stuff is got to change. I want to know the bendness. I want to know you as a human being, what makes you tick, and you need to be proud of that. And remember, you're going to repel as many people as you attract.
You're going to repel as many people as you're going to attract. The stoicism, that's incredible. The first wholesaling firm that I worked for in my 20s, you couldn't have facial hair. It was a requirement. You had to shave if you were going to do field work. It's just remarkable how much that industry has changed.
Yeah.
So we're changing on the wholesaling side, but it's also changing from an advisor perspective. Not everyone needs to be in a suit and tie.
Now, I'm gonna tell you another quick story. So when I worked at the consultancy firm, I was told every month to shave my beard, and I wouldn't do it, mostly because I got nothing else to work with, and my wife has only seen me once in 35 years without a beard, and she's like, "You're never doing that again." We're at the $1 million producer session, which was a pre-conference thing that we had at this big consultancy. I used to work for something that used to be called Peak, which was now called Carson Consulting. That's where I started in the industry. So I'm sitting down with $12 million producers, which at the time that was people weren't in the billions, bro. Right? I mean, now that seems to be rather common. And this guy walks in. And we were in Phoenix, Arizona, and he walks in, he's wearing flip-flops, he's got these, Hawaiian shorts on, and like this cool kind of loose shirt, wearing a ball cap, and he just sat down. And everybody's like, you don't take your job seriously enough. Like, I can't believe that that's the way that you dress in front of clients. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, this guy's brilliant. Because guess what? He lived in South Florida, dude.
Makes
Like,
sense.
he's like, this is what my clients wear. And by the way, just to be clear, he was hands down the most successful advisor at that table. And so Kirk and I, when we decided to start ProudMouth, that was something he and I both really leaned into. I used to be coiffed, tight beard, super nice suits, all of that sort of stuff. And I just felt like I was pretending, right? This is Matt. This is who I am, dude. I'm a Muppet. I'm weird. I have a big fuzzy beard. I'm a hippie. I'll tell everybody I love them. That's just who I am. And at 53 years old, I'm just tired of playing somebody else's game. I wanted to play my own. And because of that, in the intro, I was just voted the 10th most influential person in financial services, looking like this. And to be clear, I've never been an advisor. So lean into who you are. It's the best thing. It's the best gift you're going to give yourself.
That was incredibly helpful. All right, Matt, game time. I have thick skin. This is the 5th episode of IGO. In terms of what could be improved on IGO, what steps would you take if you were coaching me? And I'm not looking for free advice, but I think this would be helpful to the listeners that are looking for the type of feedback loops that you're going to create in the interest of improvement. And I am a big advocate of coaching. I reference that, I'm an amateur endurance runner. I have a coach. I have a physical therapist. I work with those two gentlemen on a week by week basis because doing it on my own is not going to be sufficient to get to the level where I want to be. So I firmly believe in leveraging coaches and not trying to internalize and trying to be an expert in all things. Fire away. What's wrong with IGO, Matt?
First off, dude, your podcasts are just too damn long. So yeah, I mean, that's, so if 30 minutes is really the ideal podcast length, right? And so that's been standard. It's actually between 20 and 40. But after 40 minutes, you're getting 75% drop off. So as you continue to grow your show, you're going to see what's called a partial listen, which is part of the data that you can pull from your podcasting system. And you're going to see that you're going to have a precipitous drop off, and it tracks it. It will say, for some reason, Ben, at 28 minutes, 90% of your people leave. That means you need to have a 28-minute podcast, right? So that's super important. Nope, that's number one. Number two, you got to look at the camera. Don't look at yourself. So we are hardwired as human beings, just so you know, to look at ourselves. Hardwired. It's almost, you have to train yourself not to look at yourself. All right. So here's the thing. That little green light that I have on my camera is what I have been focusing on this entire time. Like most of the time when I'm doing a podcast, I'm not even on the screen, and neither is my guest. I do not even look at my guest, because I know that I'm going to start, you're over here. Okay. So I'm going to look down at you instead of looking at the camera. Because here's the deal. My brain is registering that Ben knows that I'm looking at him. No, you don't. You think I'm looking at something else on the screen. But if I'm looking directly at the camera, you think I'm looking right at you. Guess what, brother? I'm not. I'm looking at the freaking green light, right? All right. So there's number two. Number three, you have to create more content. So taking your long form shows, right, and chopping them, we call it the atomic content method here at ProudMouth. You go ahead and atomize that content. You, first off, don't have to do as many shows as you're doing. There's no reason you need to do a weekly show. I'm telling you that right now. It's too much damn content. Because if you actually follow the atomic content method and what we know that works on social, right, you're only having to post, since you don't have a humongous network at this point, you only have to post 3 times a week on LinkedIn. That's it, right? And so you take this long form piece of content, you chop it up into a whole bunch of YouTube shorts. You already do the YouTube long form. You syndicate to every major podcast player. And then you actually write blogs and email campaigns and newsletters and social media posts, text-based posts, image-based posts, right? That's what our system here is at ProudMouth. Your shelf life of your show is going to be so much longer, brother. So I hope that wasn't too painful.
No, that was a great evisceration. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to say under 40 minutes now. In addition, I want to press you a little bit on time, because sometimes conversations are so interesting. I want to let them continue going. And I do listen to some really long form podcasts, but I think the answer would be, well, great. That's just enough content to have multiple episodes.
There it is.
To visit on multiple times.
2-parter, brother. And that's by the way, so we've done a lot of these. When our clients do miniseries, the whole miniseries is consistently listened to. The numbers are consistent. And so you have, like the last guy you did, I think you did 50,
we went 48, on for
48 minutes and 49 seconds. I saw it on screen, right? So that could have been 2 25-minute episodes, right? Which would have been perfect. So you're an endurance runner, which means that you're out running for hours, right? Great. Good for you. You're crazy as far as I'm concerned. So Indeed. You will probably listen to a 3-hour podcast. That's great.
I do.
Most human beings, 26 minutes is the average commute in the United States. It's about how long it takes for people to cook dinner. It's how long they walk their dog. So there's lots of research that supports that really sub 30 is the right length.
Wow, Matt. So listener, I promise that wasn't just a free education for me, but what I was trying to do is show you, and what I anticipated would be Matt's expertise, domain, and authority on, and why it makes sense for you as a financial professional and entrepreneur working in the financial services industry to leverage ProudMouth to start a multimedia campaign as a complement to what you're doing, or maybe eventually in lieu. Which is my last question, and we'll try to keep it brief, but the future of financial marketing, this is it, no?
It is. And it's not just, again, it's not binary, and that's wildly important for you to remember. So Tash, who's one of our new team members, a strategist, and she's unbelievable. We're actually about to do a webinar next week, so I don't know when this is going to air, but it's next week, end of August, and you can go on our YouTube channel and watch it if you're listening to this after that. But she's created this really great wheel, right? And so it's the wheel of marketing, and there are pieces of that wheel ProudMouth doesn't do. Right? So we don't do workshops, right? I don't do radio. I don't do lead gen, right? But it has to be part of the wheel. What we have found is podcasting, since you all talk for a living, because you do, that's what you do. Getting behind the microphone and distilling your thought leadership through this media, through full video, through full audio, that is the key to the future. It's like, okay, so you're working with a physical therapist and a trainer. There are times when you're running where you have to turn it up, right? Generally running up a hill or some shit like that, right? I mean, that's what you're going to do, right? So you got to turn it up. So you know that I got to push the bend button wherever that is, and I got to run even harder, right? So I used to play soccer. I was the sweeper, and I knew that there were times where I really had to turn it up, right? Podcasting allows you to turn it up to 11. So whatever other marketing you're doing, this system, the whole, what we call our core system here at ProudMouth, is just that amplifier. That's what this is, dude, right? Our job is to amplify what you're doing and help you stop being the best kept secret in the area. That's what we do every day.
Wow, Matt. All right. Well, assuming anybody is still listening, as we exceeded 30 minutes today, some key takeaways for me is if you're not leveraging multimedia, you should be it a complement to your current marketing efforts or maybe a whole new vertical for you to establish client acquisition. Other key takeaways include the 4-in-1 rule, the likelihood that you're one bad content piece away from losing a client or a prospect. So if you found value in what Matt said, I certainly did. ProudMouth, they can find you on LinkedIn, etc. Reach out. They can look at your different coaching strategies, have a conversation with you, much like I did today. For my listeners, please continue to like, listen, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And if you have a colleague in the financial planning space who could benefit from the insights today or prior insights, share this episode with them. But this was IGO episode 5. On the next episode of IGO, I'll be joined by Sydney Cullen Lawrence, continuing the conversation on building influence and serving clients in new ways. You won't want to miss it. Matt, thank you so much. Listeners, stay in good order.